Let's talk about flirting. Not the kind that feels forced, awkward, or like you're trying too hard, but the kind that feels natural, magnetic, and deeply feminine. Because here's the truth. Flirting isn't about saying the perfect line. It's about creating a feeling. It's about energy. It's about presence. And when you understand this, everything changes. So many women think flirting means they have to perform, impress, or chase attention. But the most irresistible women, they don't chase. They invite. They create space for a man to step toward them. And that's where the magic happens. Let me show you how. The first technique is what I call the playful spark. This is about lightness, fun, not taking everything so seriously. When you bring playful energy into a conversation, you instantly lower pressure and create connection. A simple tease, a smile, a curious question, these are powerful. Instead of trying to be perfect, be present. Instead of trying to impress, be interested. When you play, you become unforgettable. The second technique is the power of eye contact and pause. Most people rush conversations. They fill silence because they're nervous. But attraction lives in those small, quiet moments. When you make eye contact, hold it just a second longer, and then smile. You create tension, the good kind, the kind that makes someone think about you long after you've walked away. Flirting is not always about what you say. It's about what you don't say. It's about letting the moment breathe. And the third technique is the warm invitation. This is where you show openness without overgiving. You're not chasing, you're welcoming. A simple, I've really enjoyed talking to you, or you're fun to be around, creates a doorway. It lets him know there's interest, but it also gives him the opportunity to step forward. Because a man values what he invests in, and when you allow him to come towards you, you activate that natural desire to pursue, to connect, to win your attention. Here's what I want you to remember. Flirting is not about becoming someone else. It's about becoming more of who you already are, but with confidence, warmth, and a little bit of mystery. When you bring playfulness, presence, and openness together, you don't just flirt, you attract. Flirting is often misunderstood as something you say rather than something you create. Most people think it's about having the perfect line, the clever joke, or the right thing at the right time. But the truth is, attraction doesn't come from words alone. It comes from the feeling you generate in the interaction. And that feeling is built through your energy, your presence, and the way you make someone experience you in that moment. Think about the most memorable interactions you've had with someone you were drawn to. Chances are you don't remember every word that was said. What you remember is how you felt. Maybe you felt seen, maybe you felt excited, maybe there was a sense of ease or a spark of curiosity. That emotional imprint is what stays. That's what real flirting is about. It's about creating a moment that feels different from every other conversation they've had that day. When you shift your focus away from what should I say next to how do I want this moment to feel, everything changes. You stop overthinking. You stop trying to perform. Instead, you start responding naturally. You become more relaxed, more authentic, and more engaging without even trying. And ironically, that's when you become the most attractive. Energy plays a huge role here. If you walk into a conversation feeling tense, worried about being judged, or trying to impress, that energy is felt immediately. It creates pressure, not connection. But when you're relaxed, playful, and open, you create a safe and inviting space. That's the kind of energy people are drawn to. It feels good to be around. It makes others want to stay in that moment with you longer. Presence is another key piece. Real flirting happens when you're fully engaged in the interaction, not distracted, not thinking 3 steps ahead, not checking your phone, not mentally rehearsing your next sentence. When you're truly present, you notice the small things, the tone of his voice, the way he reacts, the rhythm of the conversation. And when you respond to those little moments, the interaction becomes dynamic and alive. That's where chemistry starts to build. There's also a subtle confidence that comes from focusing on the feeling instead of the words. You're no longer dependent on saying something perfect. You trust that who you are and how you show up is enough. That confidence is incredibly magnetic because it signals self-worth. It shows that you're comfortable in your own skin, and that comfort allows the other person to relax as well. Flirting, in this sense, becomes less about strategy and more about connection. It's in your smile, your tone of voice, the way you react, the pauses you allow, and the curiosity you bring into the interaction. Even a simple conversation can feel electric when the emotional experience is engaging. When you embrace this approach, you stop putting pressure on yourself to get it right. You start enjoying the process. You start having fun. And that fun, that lightness, that genuine presence, that's what creates attraction. Not because you said something extraordinary, but because you made the moment feel extraordinary. Eye contact and pauses are two of the most underestimated tools in flirting, yet they are incredibly powerful when used with intention. Most people rush through conversations without realizing that attraction often lives in the space between words, not just in the words themselves. When you slow things down, when you allow a moment to breathe, you create a kind of tension that feels intriguing, magnetic, and unforgettable. Eye contact, in particular, is one of the strongest ways to build connection without saying anything at all. When you look someone in the eyes, you're communicating presence, confidence, and interest. But it's not just about making eye contact, it's about how you hold it. A quick glance can feel polite, but when you hold eye contact just a second longer than usual, it creates a spark. It signals that you're not just casually engaging, you're fully there in that moment with him. There's something deeply human about being seen. When you hold eye contact with warmth and ease, it gives the other person a sense of being acknowledged and valued. It draws them in without effort. And when you pair that with a soft smile or a subtle expression, it becomes even more powerful. It's not intense or intimidating, it's inviting. Pauses work hand in hand with eye contact. Most people feel uncomfortable with silence, so they rush to fill it. They talk quickly, jump from one topic to another, or over-explain themselves. But when you embrace pauses, you separate yourself from that pattern. You create a different rhythm, one that feels calm, confident, and grounded. Imagine this. He says something, and instead of immediately responding, you take a brief moment. You look at him, you smile slightly, and then you respond. That small pause does something interesting. It builds anticipation. It makes him lean in, both emotionally and mentally. It shows that you're not reacting out of nervousness, but responding with intention. Pauses also give your words more weight. When you speak too quickly, your words can lose impact. But when you slow down and allow space, even simple sentences can feel more meaningful. It's not about saying more, it's about letting what you say land. There's also a quiet confidence in being comfortable with silence. It signals that you don't feel the need to entertain or prove yourself. You're okay just being there, sharing the moment. That kind of presence is rare, and because it's rare, it's attractive. When you combine eye contact with intentional pauses, something shifts in the dynamic. The interaction becomes less rushed and more intimate. There's a natural flow that starts to develop. You begin to notice subtle cues, his reactions, his energy, his level of interest, and you can respond in a way that feels aligned rather than forced. It's important to keep this natural. It's not about staring intensely or creating awkward silences. It's about softening your gaze, staying relaxed, and allowing moments to unfold instead of controlling them. The goal is not to perform these techniques, but to embody them in a way that feels authentic to you. Over time, this approach changes how people experience you. Conversations with you feel different. They feel deeper, more engaging, more memorable. Not because of anything overly dramatic, but because you created space for connection to grow. And in that space, attraction has room to build in a way that feels effortless and real. The idea of a warm invitation is where flirting becomes both powerful and beautifully balanced. It's the space between showing interest and maintaining your self-respect. It's not about chasing someone or trying to win them over. It's about opening the door just enough for them to step through if they choose. And that subtle shift in energy changes everything about how you're perceived. Many women are taught, either directly or indirectly, that they have to either play hard to get or do all the work to keep someone interested. But the truth lies in the middle. When you lean too far into chasing, you give away your power. When you lean too far into being distant, you can come across as uninterested or closed off. The warm invitation is that perfect balance where you're open, receptive, and engaging, but still grounded in your own worth. It starts with allowing yourself to express genuine interest in a simple, natural way. This doesn't mean over-complimenting or over-investing. It means being honest in small, meaningful moments. Saying something like, "I enjoy talking to you," or "you have a really interesting perspective," creates a sense of connection without pressure. It lets him know that there's something there, but it doesn't force anything to happen next. What makes this approach so effective is that it gives him space to respond. Instead of pulling him towards you, you're creating an environment where he wants to move closer. There's a big difference between those two energies. One feels like effort and expectation, while the other feels like curiosity and choice. People are naturally more drawn to what they feel they're choosing, not what they feel pushed into. There's also a quiet confidence in offering a warm invitation. You're not afraid to show a hint of interest because you're secure in yourself. You're not worried about rejection in the same way because your sense of value doesn't depend on how he responds. That confidence is incredibly attractive because it shows emotional maturity and self-awareness. Tone and delivery play a huge role here. A warm invitation is not just about the words you say, but how you say them. A relaxed tone, a genuine smile, and an open body language all reinforce the message. It feels light, easy, and real. There's no pressure behind it, no hidden agenda, just a simple expression of connection. Another important part of this is knowing when to step back. Once you've opened the door, you don't need to keep pushing it wider. Let him walk through. Let him meet you halfway. If he responds with interest, you can continue building that connection. If he doesn't, you haven't overextended yourself. You've simply shown who you are and allowed him the opportunity to engage. This approach also naturally filters for the right kind of person. Someone who is genuinely interested will respond to that invitation. They'll lean in, ask questions, make an effort. Someone who isn't ready or aligned won't step forward, and that clarity saves you time and emotional energy. Instead of wondering where you stand, you'll see it through their actions. When you embody this energy, you become someone who is both approachable and respected. You're not playing games and you're not overgiving. You're simply creating a space where connection can happen organically. And in that space, attraction feels effortless, mutual, and much more meaningful than anything forced or rushed. One of the most powerful shifts you can make in flirting and attraction is learning the difference between showing interest and chasing. At first glance, they can look similar, but the energy behind them is completely different. Showing interest is grounded, confident, and open. Chasing, on the other hand, often comes from uncertainty, urgency, or the fear of losing someone. And people can feel that difference immediately, even if nothing is said out loud. When you show interest, you're expressing that you enjoy someone's presence, that you're curious about them, that you're open to connection. It's calm. It's steady. There's no pressure attached to it. You're not trying to control the outcome. You're simply allowing something to unfold. This creates a sense of ease in the interaction. It makes the other person feel comfortable, not overwhelmed. Chasing, however, tends to come with an underlying need for validation. It might look like over-texting, always being the one to initiate, trying to keep the conversation going at all costs, or going out of your way to prove your worth. Even if your intentions are genuine, the energy can feel heavy. It can unintentionally push the other person away because it removes the natural space needed for attraction to grow. Attraction thrives in that space, the space where two people are choosing each other, not one person trying to convince the other. When you invite instead of pursue, you create that space. You allow curiosity to build. You give the other person the opportunity to step forward, to invest, to show their interest. And that investment is important because people tend to value what they put effort into. Inviting energy is subtle but powerful. It's in the way you engage in conversation, the way you respond, and the way you carry yourself. You might ask a thoughtful question, share a genuine smile, or express that you enjoyed the interaction. Then you leave room. You don't immediately fill every silence or chase every response. You trust that if there's interest on the other side, it will meet you. There's also a strong sense of self-respect in this approach. You're not overextending yourself to earn someone's attention. You're not abandoning your boundaries or your standards just to keep someone around. Instead, you're standing in your own value and allowing the connection to rise to meet you. That kind of energy naturally commands respect. It's important to understand that inviting doesn't mean being passive or indifferent. You're still engaged, still warm, still expressive. The difference is that your actions come from a place of choice rather than need. You're choosing to connect, not trying to secure something. That distinction might feel small, but it completely changes how your energy is received. When you stop chasing and start inviting, you also become more observant. You begin to notice how the other person responds. Are they matching your energy? Are they making an effort? Are they showing genuine interest? This awareness allows you to make better decisions about where to invest your time and emotions instead of pouring energy into someone who isn't meeting you halfway. Over time, this approach creates a dynamic where attraction feels mutual rather than one-sided. There's a natural back and forth, a sense of balance. You're not carrying the weight of the interaction alone. And that balance is what allows something deeper to develop because both people are contributing, both people are choosing, and both people are engaged in the experience. At the core of all effective flirting and attraction are three qualities that consistently stand out above everything else: confidence, warmth, and authenticity. These aren't techniques you switch on for a moment. They're ways of being that shape how others experience you. And when these qualities come together, they create a presence that feels both magnetic and deeply genuine. Confidence is often misunderstood as being bold, loud, or overly assertive, but true confidence is much quieter than that. It's the sense that you are comfortable with who you are, without needing constant reassurance from others. It shows up in the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, and even in the way you listen. When you're confident, you don't feel the need to prove your worth or compete for attention. You trust that your presence is enough, and that belief naturally influences how others perceive you. This kind of confidence allows you to relax in interactions. You're not overanalyzing every word or worrying about whether you're being liked. Instead, you're focused on the moment, on the connection, and on how you genuinely feel. That ease is incredibly attractive because it makes the other person feel at ease too. It removes pressure and replaces it with a sense of calm and openness. Warmth adds another layer to this dynamic. If confidence creates stability, warmth creates connection. Warmth is expressed through your smile, your tone of voice, your attentiveness, and your ability to make someone feel comfortable around you. It's what turns a simple interaction into something inviting and enjoyable. When you're warm, people feel safe to open up. They feel accepted rather than judged. Warmth doesn't mean being overly accommodating or losing yourself in the process. It simply means being kind, present, and receptive. It's the difference between talking at someone and truly engaging with them. When you combine warmth with confidence, you create a balance that feels both strong and approachable. You're not distant, but you're also not overly eager. You're grounded, yet open authenticity is what ties everything together. Without it, confidence can feel like an act and warmth can feel forced. Authenticity means you're not trying to be someone else to gain approval. You're not putting on a performance or following a script. You're allowing your real personality, thoughts, and feelings to come through naturally. There's something incredibly compelling about someone who is unapologetically themselves. It creates a sense of honesty and trust in the interaction. When you're authentic, you don't need to remember what you said or how you acted because it's coming from a real place. That natural flow makes conversations feel effortless and real rather than calculated. Authenticity also gives you freedom. You're no longer restricted by the fear of saying the wrong thing or not being perfect. You can laugh, be playful, express curiosity, and even show vulnerability in small ways. That range of expression makes you more relatable and more human, which deepens connection. When these three qualities come together, they create a presence that stands out without trying to stand out. You don't need complicated techniques or rehearsed lines because your energy does the work for you. People are drawn to how they feel around you, comfortable, intrigued, and engaged. This combination also helps you navigate interactions with clarity. You're not trying to impress everyone. You're simply showing up as yourself and allowing the right people to connect with that. It shifts your focus from being chosen to choosing, from seeking validation to sharing an experience. Over time, this way of showing up transforms not just how others see you, but how you see yourself. You begin to trust your natural instincts, your ability to connect, and your worth without external confirmation. And that internal shift is what truly makes these qualities so powerful in creating lasting attraction. When you step back and look at everything we've talked about, you begin to see a powerful truth emerge. Flirting isn't about memorizing techniques or trying to become someone you're not. It's about how you show up. It's about the energy you bring into every interaction, the presence you carry, and the way you allow connection to unfold naturally. When you focus on creating a feeling instead of delivering perfect words, you take the pressure off yourself and allow authenticity to shine. When you use eye contact and pauses, you slow things down just enough to let attraction build in a real, meaningful way. When you offer a warm invitation, you create space for someone to step towards you instead of trying to pull them in. And when you stop chasing and start inviting, you shift the dynamic from one-sided effort to mutual connection. All of this is anchored in confidence, warmth, and authenticity, the qualities that don't just make you attractive, but make you memorable. These are the traits that make someone feel something when they're around you, and more importantly, long after the interaction is over. The beauty of this approach is that it puts you back in your power. You're no longer trying to win someone over or prove your worth. You're simply expressing who you are, enjoying the moment, and allowing the right connections to form naturally. That's where real attraction lives, not in effort, but in ease. Not in perfection, but in presence. And when you embrace that, flirting stops feeling like a strategy and starts feeling like a natural extension of your confidence, your femininity, and your ability to connect on a deeper level.